Hi, hello, my name is Gomer Joseph. I hope you've all been having a great day so far. Welcome back to another True Crime Tuesdays video. If you are new, I welcome you. Before I discuss today's case, I'd like to mention my Christian suspense book series, which is Never As It Seems. The first book in the series is available on Amazon, and you can read it on any device on the Kindle app for free. Not only that, but I do have another book series, which is the Juliet Clark book series, which is about a Haitian American teen sleuth who happens to be a successful true crime YouTuber. The first book in the series is titled Murder at Heart. So if you're interested, the links will be in the description box below. Today, I'll be discussing the solved murder of Amina and sarahsaid. This is one case which has really bothered me over the years. Amina and Sarah's life were senselessly taken away way too soon, and it's a greater tragedy that their lives were taken by those who were supposed to protect them. It's such a tragedy that these two couldn't have a happy ending in their lives on earth after all they went through, but praise God, justice would eventually come. Now, I encourage you all to do your own research with this case and not to just look at my video for all of the information. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start with Amina. Now, she was born on March 2nd in 1989 in Dallas, Texas, to Yasser and Patricia Said. So I'm just going to go ahead and backtrack just a little bit. So Yasser, he is this Egyptian immigrant and he came to the US in the early 80s. So after immigrating to the country, he didn't meet Patricia. I really don't know how they really got into contact at first, but of course he met her, and you would think that he would just be like, if he would be more in contact with Patricia, he'd just be connected to the family. You'd think that would just be it, that they just knew each other in passing, but no, he didn't only have to meet Patricia, he had to date her when she was 14 years old, and he was in his late 20s, which is very disgusting, and I just don't know how you are a grown man, almost turning 30 years old, and you are attracted to basically this little girl. And they marry when she becomes 15 and he becomes 30 with her parents' approval. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would parents allow their children to marry a grown person? So, it's not just because of, that's just how it was back in the day. Patricia's parents agreed to allow her to marry this man because Yasser assured them that Patricia would be well taken care of. I don't care how much money in the world you have. It is my responsibility to take care of my daughter until she turns 18 years old. I am not going to allow any grown man to marry my underage daughter, who should still be playing with Bratz dolls. From what I gathered, Yasser didn't even go through with the agreement that he made with Patricia's parents because he did not take care of Patricia. He soon became controlling. He basically separated her from the family. He was also very anti-American, but why would you be very anti-American and come to the States? And not only that, but you would go ahead and marry an American. And he was trying to make this persona as an extreme Muslim, but from what I also gathered, he didn't really, tap into the Muslim religion like that. Like from what I gathered, he wasn't really reading from the Quran, and he didn't really go to mosque either. But that's besides the point. Yasser was also not only mentally abusive towards Patricia, but he was also physically abusive as well. Not only that, but he would be unfaithful to Patricia, and he also had a daughter out of wedlock. After everything that I pretty much gathered about Amina and Sarah's life with Yasser, with living as Yasser as their father, I have just got to say, like, this illegitimate daughter, as long as she had a good home life, I think that she honestly dodged a bullet, not being raised by Yasser. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to Amina. Now, Amina was described as a girl who was beautiful, bright, funny. She was talkative, outspoken, active. She loved going to pep rallies and after-school clubs, and she was very social. A year later, in March 16th of 1990, Amina would have a younger sister named Sarah. Now, Sarah, she was more reserved. But like Amina, she did love hanging out with friends. And she did also love doing after school activities and being involved with the school. She was known as somebody who was always smiling, she was sweet, and she was very smart. The two of these girls did have an oldest brother named Islam, but I'm going to discuss Islam a bit later on. As the girls grew, they understandably grew interested in boys. Now, as for Amina, she met and dated this guy named Joseph, who she met through karate school. As for Sarah, she would date a boy named Eric. Now, in most cases, in the time that we're living in, teens dating each other as long as the parents are okay with it, that's not a big deal. But with Yasser, it was a big deal. Actually, for his daughters to be dating was a big no-no. So since Yusuf was always very controlling, he planned on marrying them off to Egyptian Muslim men. Now, he didn't want his girls to be married to Americans, even though he was married to an American woman, but he did not want them to be married to American men, even if they were Muslim. He wanted them to be married to Egyptian Muslim men. He wanted his daughters to be married to grown men. Now, he, again, like I said before, he rarely practiced Islam, and, it just didn't really make sense that he would want them to be married to Muslim men when he wasn't really religious. As for the idea of arranged marriage, it's understandable that Amina and Sarah were very opposed to it. And, they were very opposed to this plan that their father had. And praise the Lord, this plan never really succeeded. But like I said before, Yusuf was still controlling, and sadly, he was also abusive to the girls. As young children, CPS was notified of Yasser's abuse of the girls. And since physical evidence wasn't found, and when they were given no choice but to claim that Patricia's family forced them to make those claims, nothing could be done about Yasser. Because around this time of the, CPS and the police looking into Yasser because of the abuse, Patricia did take the girls to live with her family, but she would eventually go back with Yasser. Now, here's my, I don't want to say small issue. Here's my big issue with Patricia. So you know the type of man that your husband is. He abuses you, and you find out that he's abusing your girls. Well, you claim that he wasn't abusive even after what he did years down the line. But you decide to go back to this man who is not only toxic, but very violent. I understand that abuse can be mental and that it can be physical, and that you can have this mental captivity on somebody. I get that. I understand that Yasser was harassing Patricia and her family, and that Patricia would naturally be afraid of this man. But you would think that that fear would push you to protect your children at all costs, because you would think that you as a mother have to go ahead and put your child's needs before your own, and that you need to protect them because they are smaller and they are more vulnerable. But when your husband is harming them, your job as a mother is to make sure that your children are protected. But sadly, she just didn't seem to have that in mind, and she went back with Yasser when she was safe with her family. So I did mention Islam, the oldest brother, and it's said that he was treated better by Yasser, and he was also described as a pretty awkward guy to those outside of the family. Now, there are plenty of families who decide to capture memories through videotapes, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, a little home video, usually they don't harm people, but from what I gathered, there were some creepy home videos that Yasser was producing. And looking at these home videos is very disturbing. Yasser would say very disturbing things about his own daughters while videotaping them. I am not going to state what are in those videos, but when I saw them, they do make me sick to my stomach. I am not trying to throw up in the middle of recording, so I'm just going to leave it there. So once again, Yasser did not want Amina and Sarah dating American boys. So when he found out that Amina wrote to her boyfriend Joseph, he wasn't having it. Now, he confronted Amina about these notes, and she claimed that she was writing to an imaginary boy because, you know, Yasser isn't allowing her to date American boys, so why not make one up? But Yasser didn't seem to buy what Amina was trying to tell him. So he moved to Louisville, Texas, with the family. I'm trying to go ahead and honestly, like, I am trying to figure out like how he was able to move so quickly because like he's a taxi driver, and from what I know, taxi drivers don't really have that much cash to just be moving that quickly. But I do know that Yasser, he was the oldest of a few siblings, and I know that a couple of his siblings actually did have money, so maybe they were able to help out with, you know, the finances of moving to Louisville, Texas. But moving to this new part of Texas, because the girls are already, you know, living in Dallas, Texas, moving to this other part of the state, his daughters would not be able to have that much contact with their boyfriends. When Amina was able to get in contact with Joseph and his family, because she was also close to his family as well, she filled them in about the abuse and also informed them how Yasser threatened to kill Joseph. Now later on, it's Christmas of 2007, so Amina and Sarah convinced Patricia to leave home to get away from Yasser after Yasser threatened to kill Amina for being with Joseph. Now, Sarah's boyfriend Eric and a friend of theirs named Eddie would run away with them to Kansas. Now, as to why Eric and Eddie were fleeing from Yasser, I assume that Yasser threatened these two as well. So at first they would stay with Patricia's family for a bit, but then they would later stay in a hotel, then soon found an apartment to stay in. Despite how far away they got, Yasser was not going to let his wife and daughters just go like that. So because of Yasser's persistence, Patricia was pretty much thinking about going back to him, even after she knew that if she were to go back to Yasser and take the girls with her, then Yasser would kill the girls. Knowing what was going on through her mom's head, Amina refused to go back, and rightfully so. So, supposedly, Patricia states that Yasser's brother Yasin would make Yasser leave and that they could come back. But, like, why come back to Louisville? Why come back to Texas and, you know, be back home if Yasser's not going to be in your life anyway? Like, why just do all that traveling if Yasser's not going to be in your life? She was also claiming that she felt guilty for leaving Yasser, a man who you know is violent towards you and your daughters. And besides, like I mentioned, Patricia was saying that Yasin, one of Yasser's brothers, stated that he would make sure that Yasser wouldn't hurt them. But as for Amina, she did not trust her uncles. She has stated how her uncles were just as bad as her father, and that one of them would take over if something were to happen to Yasser. Patricia decided to go back to Yasser with Sarah. So here's the thing. At first, she claimed that she was going back to Texas to place flowers on her mother's grave, but that did not seem to be the case. So when Amina finds this out, she's absolutely livid, and I do not blame her at all. So not only is she mad that Patricia took her younger sister, that she took Sarah, but Amina knew that Patricia would tell Yasser about everything that happened while they ran away. So Yasser would be able to locate Amina anyway, even if she didn't go back with her. So all that work of staying hidden would all just be for nothing anyway. Patricia kept persisting that Amina come back, and Amina kept pushing back. But by the end of the day, Amina was finally convinced to go back home with Yasser. On January 1st, 2008, so it's New Year's Day, Amina is 18 and Sarah is 17. So Yasser tells the girls that he's going to take them out to eat and drove them in his taxi cab, trying to make it seem like he's gonna have this grand old New Year lunch or dinner time with them. So, in the middle of him driving, he parks his car and he does the most horrific thing that you could ever do to your children. He would shoot his daughters, both Amina and Sarah, then leave his own daughters to die. Unfortunately, Amina was killed instantly, but by God's grace, Sarah still had enough breath to call 911 and explain that she and her sister were shot, and she identified the shooter as her father. So after they sadly passed away, it was already too late for help to come around. Once the girls were found, there was no way of getting them back. And of course, news spreads about their deaths, and those who actually did love them were absolutely devastated. After the murders took place, soon after, Yasser would flee like a coward as the years went on, and he was eventually placed on the FBI's most wanted list, and he would stay hidden for 12 years. Between those 12 years, it was assumed that Islam knew something about his father's whereabouts. In 2017, there was actually a break-in finding Yasser. So Islam rented an apartment in Bedford, Texas, and an apartment maintenance worker stated that he saw a man who resembled Yasser. So after informing the police looked into it and tried to talk with Islam, but Islam was uncooperative. So why in the world would you be uncooperative when you know that your father is a sick, evil man who shot and killed your sisters? Why in the world would you not want to be involved with helping the police locate this man? Why would you just decide to stay silent? But anyway, the police looked into the apartment and they found a glass patio door open, and outside they found glasses inside of a bush. After obtaining these glasses, DNA tests were run and they were able to match it with Amina and Sarah's, and the glasses matched with the DNA of their father. By the grace of God, on August 26th of 2020, the police finally located this sick, demonic man, and they found and arrested him in Justin, Texas. Soon after, Islam and Yasser's brother Yasin were arrested. Of course, Yasser was charged with killing his daughters, and he would have to go to trial. So on August 9th, 2022, Amina and Sarah finally got official justice, and Yasser was found guilty of his daughter's murders. It's so hard to believe that it's been 14 years since Amina and Sarah were senselessly murdered. Even though Yasser was caught, those who loved Amina and Sarah are only stuck with memories. Their loved ones are also stuck with the fact that they won't be able to make more memories with these girls. And I do pray for those who are mourning Amina and Sarah. Honestly, the fact that Yasser was caught is an answer to prayer. Like, I literally would pray to the Lord that this man would be found and face the penalty of this wicked action that he committed against those that he was supposed to protect. So praise the Lord, Yasser will never be able to make it to the outside world because of what he did to his own daughters. Now the whole world knows what sort of monster he is, and that he'll have to live with the fact that the whole world knows that he's a monster for the rest of his life. I thank you all for taking your time in your day to watch this video. If you did like this video, please feel free to hit the like button. If you have any thoughts on this case, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please feel free to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about the next video. If there's a certain true crime case that you'd like me to cover, go ahead and let me know. I will see y'all for next True Crime Tuesdays, and I will talk to y'all later.